Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to get started with our meeting. Dave, do you have any questions on attendance? We'll then move on to the agenda approval. Is there any changes, additions to our agenda?
The superintendent, high school principal report and curriculum and testing report all had some additions. Mine had a correction on COVID procedures. Mr. Lattimore added the enrollment numbers, and Mr. Horbach added some things on the social studies curriculum. I also, after this was public, then MDE released the current levy numbers, so I have the current levy number now in there. When the board agenda went public, MDE hadn't released it yet, so now that's there. And then today I did just update, because enrollment's changing so often, so I did update our enrollment. That was as of about 2:30 p.m. today, and it's changed since then. So, but I did make those updates, and that is everything.
All right, we have an agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is open forum. Rules for open forum. There are 3 minutes per speaker. Open forum shall not take more than a total of 15 minutes. No complaints about individual staff members, about students, or about other persons are permitted. All presenters will conduct their business in a manner that meets community standards for decorum. The board will not take action on items presented in open forum. Did anybody say that right? Does anybody wish to speak at open forum? If not, we will continue to move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the bills. If you have a question, please state the bill number and the page number. Does anybody have any questions on the bills? If there are no questions on the bills, I'm looking for a motion to approve paying the bills.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is superintendent's report.
Just some quick updates this month. First, just for board members, here are the current board member meetings that are scheduled for this month. So if that is you, please note that for your calendars. Hard to believe, but by the time we have our next board meeting, high school conferences will be up and running already. We historically invite school board members, if you'd like to attend and have a table at conferences, you're welcome to. Would just ask that you communicate either with myself or Mr. Lattimore, so we can make sure we have a table reserved for you. High schools are October 9 and October 14. Elementary, we can talk about again in October because their conferences are later in the school year. They're in November. But if you'd like to attend, just let myself or the correct principal know. Also interesting to start talking about in September, just planning for our holiday breakfast. It will be back in December this year, the Friday before the holidays. So we'll talk more about this as we go through the next months, but we are planning to host a holiday breakfast again for all staff on Friday, December 20th. And that's something that administration and the school board puts on for our staff. We come in, we cook, we prepare, we serve, and then we clean up. So we'll talk more about that in the next few months, but please put Friday, December 20th on your calendars. We're continuing to work with our new staff. Everything that I've heard so far, things are going well. We had those 2 additional days during workshop week solely with our new teachers. We've assigned them all a mentor. They're all working with that, including with our principals, and things seem to be going very well as we start the school year for our new staff. This month's education for board is just around attendance. What I had in there, I had forgotten that the CDC updated the COVID recommendations, so I took out that if you test positive for COVID, you need to stay home. As last, I think it was March, the CDC had come out with new recommendations where basically if you're improving and you're fever-free without meds for 24 hours, you can return. But otherwise, we're following our attendance procedures. Attendance has looked pretty good so far to start the school year. We hope that continues as we go through the remaining part of the year. And then the last part I have in my update, the APAC, which is the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, did issue a vote of concurrence for the 23-24 school year. What that means is that the APAC committee finds that the district was meeting the needs of the American Indian students. The APAC is required either to give a vote of concurrence or non-concurrence. They gave a vote of concurrence that we're doing things that we should, and that vote's required in order to release funding for the current school year. So no action the board needs to take, just informing you that the APAC committee did make that vote of concurrence. Any questions for me on anything in my update?
Great, if there are no questions for Brian, thank you. We're going to move on to high school principal.
Thank you. So just to go through some of the things that we've had, workshop week, great to have the teachers back in the building, went through some new stuff. Having our guest speaker was very encouraging. We're seeing a lot of that stuff taking place now in our building. We had 7th grade orientation, well attended. There was another good turnout for open house. This year we went back to a quick meeting with freshman students and parents during that time, 4:30 to 5, just to talk about the Drive Red requirements for our 9th graders and also for the graduation requirements. Just letting our students and parents know that they have, the expectation is now that these count and that they need to make sure that they're getting their credits for graduation. So just to hit that home with them, just another reinforcement of that. Like I said, our presenter during workshop week, a lot of great things we've heard from teachers regarding that, hearing a lot of kind of that talk that he was teaching or speaking about. So it was really good, that affirmative attention. We're really hearing the I notice, hearing a lot of that. And again, we're going to be going through this with our peer coach this year as well. He'll be looking for, at the high school, it's Mr. Vikstrom. We'll be looking for that as we go into classrooms. And then I've asked any teachers if they'd like me to come in as well, just to give some feedback for that. So that's been really good. So far, it's been a great week start, like I said. The high school billing goals, for the MCA scores, looking at that, what we want to do is we want to move our students 4%. So MCA scores, to increase our MCA scores in all subject areas by 4%. Again, this is looking into the strands to see where students are struggling and fill the gaps through instruction. That will be our goal as we go through this. Again, our office referrals, wanting to bring them down. It looks like there was some miscommunication towards the end of the year last year, so some of that data that we had was not as accurate. So we're just going to go from 2,000 to less than 1,500, and then fails from 35 to 20 after the first semester. So those are the goals that we are looking at for the school. The PLC plan for Wednesdays is linked there. Again, looking at data monthly to monitor where we're at and what action steps are needed. Our professional development will be based on our goals that we have. Grade level teams will be looking at behavior data, referrals, developing our tier 2 interventions, monitoring progress for those 4 to 6 weeks to see if those interventions are working. And then we have department planning time, again, curriculum alignment to standards, the pacing, development, and really working to coordinate. So we have not only that from class to class, but from grade to grade. So we have that vertical alignment for our students. Staffing, with some creative use of licensing, we have got all of our teacher staff filled. We are still in desperate need of paras, so we're still continuing to look at that. We've had some interviews, hired one, potentially two after this morning, so we're still looking. As of this morning, we're down 5 in our transitions program still, and 1 overall in our high school for para support. So, first week of school, we had J Crew Day. So as you know, we had 7th through 9th graders come in and really work on what those expectations look like for the high school, and what we need to do. It gave them to get their routine down in a less stressful environment. They're able to gain some knowledge of what it takes to be successful in a high school setting. I would like to personally thank Sam Favor and Tom Linden. I worked with them over the summer. They put a lot of effort and energy into making this day, I think, a success. So I just really appreciate their works behind the scene to make it a meaningful experience for our students. And then just getting some feedback. It sounds like it was a really good day. I thought it was a success. Moving forward, of course, there's some things that we'd like to tweak, and so we'll look at potentially. I think there's more we can do for our freshmen that I'd like to see next year as well. So we will continue to look at that to see if there's some things that we can do to improve that for our freshmen. Last week we had a really good week start to the week. A lot of good conversations going on, a lot of things going on. There was great energy in the building from both students and staff. And I think our students are getting to understand what our expectations are. And again, we'll continue to build towards those expectations as we move forward. But we've just been really working on setting what our expectations are in terms of what we wear, what our cell phones, where our cell phones should be, and stuff like that. So we've been working hard, and we'll continue to work hard on those expectations. Homecoming is quickly approaching. So that will be the week of the 23rd. We have homecoming. We're meeting, Mandy and Katie and I are meeting this week to get that set up for our students for homecoming week. Coordination will be the 23rd on that Monday. So a lot of energy will be back in the building again, so it'll be great. The class size breakdowns. Miss Katie Hartle was working on this all last week. This was from this morning's update of what the class sizes look like through all of our classes currently. So if you have any questions, if you look at that as you go through this, just go ahead. Don't feel free to reach out and we can have a conversation. Sticks out. Some of the classes we were doing some looking to do some kind of a two-way pathway for some of our college classes to get more interest in some of those classes. We wanted to make some of them college level, and our teachers were ready to good to go with that, but also make it high school equivalency as well to try and help get more interest in that class for those that could take it without meeting the requirements or the prerequisites of the college level. So an extra assignment or paper or two like that, that's what the college kids would have to do compared to if you were taking it for a high school class. So just trying to get creative in how we can get students interested in other classes. So we just got a few dates coming up here. Picture Day will be next Thursday, September 19th. Homecoming week is the 23rd through the 30th. Mid-quarter is the 30th. And we have conferences the 9th and the 14th. I'll be reaching out with our conference committee. We're looking to do some maybe some new ways how to do that to kind of drum up some interest at the high school level. As you know, elementaries are well attended. High schools kind of stagger a little bit when it comes to parents coming there. So we're trying to find some ways to maybe make it a little bit more meaningful for parents. So I'll have more updates on that at our next meeting to how that went. And we have Lainey Johnson here to give us an update on the first week of school from our school, or student school board.
It went good. Yeah, in school, the first week of school, really felt welcome for the teachers and, yeah. Sports are going great. Got a game tomorrow, volleyball, football this weekend. Yeah.
Thanks, Lainey. Board members have any questions for the report?
All right,
Great, thank you.
and, thank you, Lainey. Next up is elementary principal report. Bonnie.
Just say, kind of echoed what Mr. Lattimore has said, but, you can see my enrollment numbers as of 9/7, which Mr. Masterson already hit on, that they're pretty volatile still. They're kind of all over. You have 2 drops, you have 2 adds, you have 4 drops, and it's changing all the time. So, that again, as of 9/7 was there in front of us. We continue to review our summer school. This is our second year of having it in June. It doesn't seem to affect the amount of kids attending. We have not started that conversation as to what we're going to do next year, but it is good to see those kids back in the building right away, whether it's right after school ended or we wait until August and have it. So those kids are getting what they need outside of the school year. Very much echo what Mr. Lattimore said about workshop week. Probably my first year in a very, quite some time that I don't think I took a negative feedback of like, we're doing this again, or why this. Like, everybody was energized, and at least in my buildings, they really thought he had some very good stuff to talk about. I really enjoy having our support staff there. We had 16 of the 21 that I have on staff attend that, and having that common language and those common strategies throughout the building with our support staff is fundamental. So looking forward to bringing him back in the building. Like Joe said, it really can be a game changer if it's used consistently, and that is definitely something that I am pushing in our buildings, and I know at the high school as well. We had open house. More than 80% of our families came. I continue to get the feedback of, we love having just 15 minutes with our families. Sometimes 15 minutes isn't quite enough, but at least I get that one-on-one attention with those teachers, so they really like that. First week was fantastic. Teachers are really focused on reestablishing routines and building those relationships with their students. And there was a buzz with the students and the staff. We are starting to do our fast testing, kind of seeing where our kids are, what they retained over the summer, where do we put them, how do we meet their needs, and we're identifying our win groups. We are trying a different fundraiser this year, both at Hinckley Elementary as well as Finlayson Elementary. It is called Booster. It's just donation based. We're not selling anything. It's just, you give money to the school. They do, we're doing a fun run in both buildings. We'll introduce that to staff here very soon. We'll have a kickoff. So we're gonna try it and see what it turns out like. I know at Hinckley Elementary, they'll be doing, a fundraiser with PTO as well, with the cups and stuff that we've done a few years ago. So you'll see that come out, but that is with our PTO. And like Joe talked about in his, our PLCs will be very focused on identifying our power standards for a report card. Those need to be revamped a little bit. They've been the same for quite some time, and aligning our new curriculums with the state standards and seeing where those holes are. So we'll start that this Wednesday. In fact, looking at our grade level collaboration, looking at where our kids fall with their data from last year and what we've already accumulated from this year. So it's great to be back in the buildings.
Does anybody have any questions for Bonnie? Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Next up is curriculum and testing report. Jonathan.
Sure, thanks for having me. The MCA testing results are there this past year for reading, math, and science, along with the fast growth percentiles from fall 2023 to spring 2024. And so they just kind of mirror both. The first two are reading, one's fast bridge and then one's MCA, and then math for both, and then science is next. So if you have any questions on those, you can talk to me at any time and look at those. After that, we've got our testing calendar for the year. It's a state requirement that we have it on our website, so ours is up and accessible. We have to turn this into the state as part of our, what used to be World Best Workforce Plan, but I forgot the name as of right now.
Civics and
But it's required to be on there. It used to be start of school, I think now it's October 1st or something. But it's up and running. And then just some highlights that we've done through the year. Joe and Bonnie have both hit on Scott Urban. We do have Scott Urban coming in again November 2nd, and he will be here with the staff for another full day. And if the PD committee and the responses continue to be positive, we will look at having him come again. So next year would be, his kickoff theme would be the start of the year, starting your classroom strong. Then there's some other things that he could potentially do that we would look at. They gave us an initial quote just for everything when we first started talking to him. It was all 50,000 for everything. We've already done 13,000, so we'll just see if it's making a difference with our kids and our staff. Look at continuing on Mr. Urban and having him come in. We still have teachers going through letters. Bonnie, what about half of your staff is completely trained in letters now, as is Bonnie herself. And we'll continue to do that. We only have one new staff currently right now that has to be trained under state law for next year. We did put in for the waiver because that staff member will not be fully trained by July 1st, but it's okay. Every school district's in the same boat. We only have one, so that's pretty good. The last thing there I just wanted to highlight was we did bring this TCI social studies curriculum to the teaching and learning committee last year. We talked about, why this was the one they wanted to look at. We put in here, we presented this to the committee as well last year, just about, does TCI teach critical race theory? You can see right there that they do not. It gives a little bit of background about what they're built on. But underneath that on the bottom, there's a reviewer site, not on the bottom of this document, but on the bottom of my report. I added in. So if you wanted, anybody in the public, anybody in our district, any public community member can review the social studies curriculum. The website's there, and then the email or the username and password are also listed there. So anybody can have access to that. So we think that it's important that people can look at that and see that. We know it's a hot topic button, so we want to put it out there, be transparent. I don't know if you go in there, I didn't go in there off of that site. Did you see everything? Because we don't use everything that they offer. But if you want specifics on what the teachers are looking at this year, I can get those to you as well. But that's where we're at with the social studies curriculum. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next up is community ed report. Becky.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. We've got a review of our summer activities. Had a very busy summer, as you can see. Family was very busy. We had swimming lessons in July and in August. We had a total of 406 children participate. So busy. Went really well. Pam's first summer. It went well. And I also wanted to just list here, we had a series of donations, $300 donation from the Pine City Women's Lions Club, $300 anonymous donation for youth sports, $1,500 from Hinckley Lions for the pool lessons and a new chair, and then $4,500 from the city of Hinckley. And I will make sure that thank you notes have gone out to all those entities. I also just wanted to mention, this isn't on there, but Pam has put together a field trip for adults. We are thinking we might extend it to youth too, but to the Arboretum on October 17th in Chaska. So that's what we're going to take a school bus and head down. That should be a really good day. We've got a pretty good turnout so far, but we could use a few more. And then also, we're always looking for new community ed advisory committee members from our communities. We really want people from the communities. We've got quite a few staff people, which is great too. Let us know if you'd be interested. We do right now have 4 new people that are interested. So that's what we'll have. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Becky? Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Next up is athletics report. Mandy.
Hello, everybody. Kind of basically, kind of what I went through, same thing that I kind of report on every year. Our fall sports numbers were down a little bit, kind of across the board. Football, we were down from last year. We have a total of 30 for varsity and JV. So unfortunately, 7 are not eligible right now. So we did need a 4th coach, and unfortunately had to cancel the JV season. We're working on maybe getting some scrimmages together to get some of those players that might not see a lot of field time because they're younger in a varsity setting, just so they can get a little more experience. We've played 2 games so far. We had a win against East Central and lost to I Falls on Friday night. And then we also have 12 7th graders and 9 8th graders. So we have enough to where we could probably play 2 separate, but we're going to go with 1 combined team, and then they'll just play longer quarters. It'll make for a little bit longer, but then they'll all get kind of a little bit more of experience. For volleyball, numbers are down again this year. They've also played 2 games so far. We, I think, lost both to Moose Lake Little River and East Central. There are 31 players in total. Varsity has 11. 5 of them are seniors. JV has 9, and C team has 11. We didn't have enough for a 4th coach this year, so I typed that in there wrong. And then junior high volleyball, for 7th grade, there are 11 players, and 8th grade has 8 players. And I think we're still looking to add a couple more 7th graders. They're kind of like, oh, can I still join? Yep, you sure can. So we're working on getting their physicals done and that kind of stuff, because some of them are kind of in situations where they haven't quite gotten that far yet. So cross country numbers are down by a few also this year. There are 18 runners, and actually we just added one last week, but she participated in the meet, so she's been running long enough. So we actually have 19 runners now in grades 7 through 12. They've had 2 meets already, and they've gone pretty well. This year we'll have a regular home meet this year, and then we are also hosting the GRC meet. With the new teams that came into the conference, they wanted somebody to host that had experience hosting it. We didn't want to throw that at Crosby Ironton yet, because they're going to be the next people to host. So we're going to host, Pine City hosted last year for the last 2 years, so we're going to take it back again, and then it'll only be here for a year. And then we're also hosting the Section 5A meet again this year, and that's on October 24th. And there'll be approximately 23 teams that will be coming for that, boys and girls. Pretty quick meet, but who we work with at the casino is really great and does a really good job with things out there. So it should run pretty smoothly. We have 7 cheerleaders this fall. We're going to try to get them to, well, obviously all home games, but also away games, but they did not go on Friday to I Falls. So all of our home games are pretty far away this year. So, and Ashley hasn't gone all the way through her type 3 training because they're going to take a separate vehicle. So to get up there. Fall play is going to be in November. Auditions are starting at the end of the month, and the play will be deadline by Don's oldest. And there's a place in Sarah. If any of you guys are kind of looking at what that might be about, it looks like it'll be good. And then Alyssa and Wes are also looking at possibly doing a fall musical next year. We haven't had one of those in the last few years just because the interest hasn't been there. but they're gonna try to do a few things throughout the school year to kind of promote it, and hopefully we can get enough interest in it and get something going, so it's something different. Just wanna hype it up a little bit and see if we can get the interest there. Volleyball and cross country, they did their usual fundraisers. Volleyball did cookie dough, and cross country worked the Ragnar race that comes through Hinckley in August. Still involving parents and using Remind and Facebook. Our school registration is going really well in year 3. Lots of parents are still paying online. Shauna Watron is doing the sports pictures still doing banners, but if they can't afford one, we're making sure that gets taken care of through HF Club money. The Hall of Fame committee met in August, and we have 4 new inductees into the Hall of Fame. That's going to happen again during homecoming week. We try to kind of correlate things so they can go to the games that are happening and activities that week. The dinner will be on September 28th at the Finlayson Community Center this year, and we're still finalizing details. We actually meet on Wednesday about that. So our goal is to meet 1 year in Hinckley, then the next year go to Finlayson, and last year we had to have it in Hinckley because they overbooked the community center in Finlayson, so we brought it back to Hinckley. We're using the Huddle cameras. We're going to still be streaming on Huddle TV, not using our YouTube channel. So far, that's been working pretty good. So none of the procedures have changed for that at all for parents and other people to be looking at those and streaming that. This summer, I also purchased a Touch Pro Touch Wall virtual trophy case with HF Club money. And right now I'm working on getting installed and up and running. I'm waiting for Keith to kind of come back because he's going to have to help install it, and it's quite heavy touch screen, and it's going to go right in that front foyer, right by the doors there, kind of where it says Home of the Jaguars, on the other wall where I have that big picture right now, and be very close to the same size of that. And then I'm working with the guy that sets it all up. We'll be able to do some really fun stuff with it, and actually like put in things about athletics so we can run honor rolls on there. Like, obviously I'll have athletics, and then we'll also do activities as well. So me and Wes have sat down and talked about some things that they want to feature with choir and those kind of things as well. So there's all kinds of stuff that we can do with it. And I decided to do that instead of doing record boards, just because I get a little more bang for my buck there, because both things are pretty expensive. And I just kind of wanted to spruce things up because things are looking really old and run down. So, and then coaches have decided that athletes that are not eligible after the mid-quarter date, this is what we kind of talked about at our coaches meeting that happened during workshop week. We had quite a few kids, not quite a few kids, but there was a few kids that after mid-quarter last year, during the spring season, they still were not eligible because they weren't passing classes. So the coaches, who are also teachers, they would like the kids to stay back and do school instead of going to these events, because sometimes they're getting out quite early and they're missing class. So we're maybe kind of hoping that might jumpstart them into like maybe trying to get better grades and that kind of stuff, because you are a student first and an athlete second. So that is one thing that they would like to be put into their handbook. And then they also want to try staff and teacher appreciation night. Kind of instead of parents night, focusing there, but parents night, we're not going to get rid of it. You'll see I kind of have it highlighted there. We're not going to traditionally do it the way we have been. So this Friday, specifically for football, they're actually going to have parents night, but they're going to do an ice cream social for all the parents in the cafeteria afterwards. Because the last 2 years, there's just kids that get stressed out because they have to go buy their parents all this stuff, and then they have to talk in a microphone. And then not only that, there's quite a few parents that don't show up for those kind of things. And we had one instance where we had a really upset kid on the boys basketball team because his parents didn't come. Affected his playing, like that kind of stuff. And the coaches are trying to find a different way to maybe involve parents where you're not calling people out and like making people uncomfortable. So I said we could go ahead and try that. And then they're going to try the staff teacher appreciation thing at a volleyball game as well. We're just going to try it out and see how it works. So like student athlete will pick out invite like one of their favorite teachers or a staff member to a game. So we'll kind of see how that goes. And then I just kind of like to update the coach's handbook too a little bit. I had a little bit of free time this summer where I could sit and actually kind of look at it. And some of it's just outdated. So that's another thing I'll be looking at and doing. And then I'm also working in the junior senior class trip planning, and Jenny Masterson said that she will advise this again this year. I don't know if she was bullied into it or not, but she said she would do it. And then I'm still working on getting that second person on board. I have kind of looked at prices of things, and what worries me a little bit is that week that we have spring break, it is very expensive. So once we get the other person on board, maybe we'll sit down, we'll kind of look at that and see what that kind of looks like. I know last year, Katie Hartwell sat through a few presentations from different agencies that will take you like either by bus or you can fly there, but the costs kind of were the same. So I kind of chatted with her a little bit about that. So I'm just not quite sure. I mean, obviously we go to Washington, DC, but that timing might not be the best even during the week when things are usually cheaper. So are there any questions?
I've got one, man.
Yeah.
Is there any way of getting away from going like to international balls and have a closer game?
It's actually the football committee that decides that, so
Okay.
the chances of that happening are kind of slim. But you never know. This next year is another restructuring year, so we'll kind of see like where we fall and kind of like where we end up. But we do play games that are really, really far away, and we're not the only team that does that. Like I know Rush City will go to I Falls too, and that kind of stuff, and they get in the situation where they have to pay 2 bus drivers for a coach bus because they can only drive in certain increments. So. It's kind of crazy weird, but
We might have been Duluth.
yeah. So like, I don't know, like just across the board, that's just something that another committee that kind of decides.
Okay.
And we'll know who we're playing and all that stuff will be set probably by next June.
Okay.
If not a little bit sooner than that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question on the junior senior class trip.
Yeah.
Have we thought about doing it in the summer, like the week or the second week after school is out, so that it doesn't interfere with trying to get subs for those advisors that are gone? Or, I mean, that's when we do German trips and Spanish trips, so is that a possibility to look into what the price would be?
Yeah, I think so. And it could be a little bit cheaper too, and maybe more affordable for people. And that was kind of,
And maybe a little warmer.
well, yes, that too. I don't know, just when you look at when I was putting out for all these positions through email and that kind of stuff, I had some interest in it, but a lot of them, it's falling over that spring break time, and a lot of them either have trips planned with their families or they want to spend time with their families, so maybe that is a good option to look at, so we can definitely do that.
Do we do it now too though, because of sports? Like, the potential for people that might be in a state tournament right after
Yeah,
school?
that's also true, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we could look at a different week too, but it's a little bit, I don't know, like maybe the beginning of March instead, like, you know, when we have that break in sports, but sports kind of start, it's like an awkward week this year, like with the way our calendar just kind of works. Because 2 sports start, and then the week that we have spring break, 2 more start. Baseball and golf start that week, so it's just kind of weird how everything just kind of pans out. But it's definitely something we could look at and just see price wise and see if we'd have interest in it. Or maybe a survey or something, I guess, is something that maybe could be done for those juniors and seniors, just to see if there'd even be interest in kids wanting to take a trip during that time maybe.
Yeah. That sounds like a good idea. Does anybody have any other questions for Mandy? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to move on to board committee reports. Does anybody wish to present? No. Next up is communications. I don't believe there was any communications. Right, then we are going to move on to budget calendar, unfinished business.
So in September, we're still monitoring all the ordering that was done over the summer, making sure things were kept within budget, checking enrollment to see if we need more materials, less would be hard, but if we need more materials, if class sizes were larger than we anticipated. The biggest thing, at least for myself, the business manager and school board, is the levy information has come out, and something that we'll be talking about September, October, November, and then approving in December. We'll talk more about the levy in a few agenda items, but that's probably the biggest thing that we'll start researching. Like I said earlier in the agenda, MDE released the numbers late on Friday. But it is something that we will definitely research quite a bit between now and December when the board sets the taxes for the school district.
All right, does anybody have any questions? All right, if not, we are going to move on to the policies that need to be approved.
Looking for approval on all these. Most of the ones on this list are just language that were changed, laws, maybe some rewritten or cleared up language coming out of the legislation session. I can highlight those. I did highlight all the changes in all these policies, but 104 just basically removed the world's best workforce, as it's no longer called that. 413 updated familia status definition. 509 removed school readiness plus and school of parents choice law. 513 again removed reference of world's best workforce. 515 added explanatory note for directory information. 521 updated statutory definition of disability. 601 removed language around world's best workforce. 602 just helped to align some of the statutes with current Minnesota law. 603 again removed world's best workforce language, and then 604 adds pending change to the health standards. But otherwise, are there questions on any of those specific policies that you'd like me to go over?
If there are no questions, are there any, does anybody want any policy pulled? Or do we want to make one motion with 13 policies?
One's good.
Right, if there's no questions and everybody's in agreement to approve the 13 policies, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is Jagger Pride.
See our list. Really thank you to the local businesses for providing, whether it was breakfast, lunch, goodies for staff, to Gabe and Town and Country Insurance, for providing for the new staff. And then our custodians, our buildings looked amazing as we came in and started the school year.
Does anybody wish to add something?
I was told that we took a charter bus to the football game.
We did.
Who paid for that?
Assuming the football team was boosters.
Should we list them too? That's
Yes,
pretty.
but I guess I suppose we could. I just want to make sure that that's who got the bus, or,
Find that out and add it next month.
That'd be fine.
okay, I'll find out for you, Leo.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, then we are gonna move on to the preliminary levy.
So each September, every school district must take, every school board in the state must take action on the preliminary levy. Our school district, along with almost every school district in Minnesota in the month of September, typically accepts the maximum. The reason we do that is you can't increase your levy after September. You can decrease it, but you can't increase anything after September. So typically districts in Minnesota, they all initially say they're gonna levy the max. And the other part, procedurally, numbers change so much drastically between now and December, that if we didn't at this point say levy the max, it could tie our hands as we go forward. By saying tonight that you want for the preliminary levy, say levy the max, you're not doing anything to the taxpayers at this time. You will set the numbers for the taxpayers in December. So this month, it's really a procedural move to say levy the max. As between myself, our business manager, and Ehlers, we research what's happening with the state, what our numbers, making sure our enrollment matches. You can see where we were last year. We approved a max levy of $2,682,811. As of the first run MDE released, we are at $2,601,174, which is a 3% decrease. The biggest reason, I haven't had a lot of time to dig into it, but the biggest reason is when our enrollment goes down, it affects every single area of the levy. Again, I haven't done a lot of research into what could happen between now and December, but that's what our initial preliminary maximum would be. And I'm recommending that the board approves the initial levy maximum as we research these numbers for the next 3 months.
Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the initial levy max.
Make the motion. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is our enrollment numbers.
You can see where our numbers were. That top row of the 882 was as of September 5th. The updated is as of today at about 2:30, and I think it even changed since then. The biggest change was Empower did go up. They came directly out of the high school, and HES did come down. I do think a couple have enrolled at HES since I updated this, but that kind of, like Mrs. Scullard said, it's literally 2 join, 2 or 3 leave. It's changing hourly. Our Mars person, Jennifer Olander, is sending us updates all the time. And in fact, we may have a student that we just learned about on Friday in Barnum that we have to work through and figure out how to get them to school. So there's a lot of changes with enrollment, special ed, different laws, with homeless students that we're working through right now and trying to figure out transportation. All in all, as of at least 2:30 p.m., we are 62 students down than where we ended last year. Last year, we ended at 940. So we are currently 62 students down. So far, I have been trying to compile some reasons. I've been able to place phone calls to 29 families at this point, and to kind of figure out some of the why. The biggest reason of those 29, I think there were 8 or so I haven't heard back from yet. 11 had moved out of the district, and a bigger majority, a lot of it was they were specifying behaviors at kind of all levels of the district. And clearly that's been something we've been really focusing on this year. I did ask about things like our cultural events, like our school calendar. No one has mentioned those as reasons they're leaving. We've also seen an increase, which I think is coming. You'll see the actual numbers in either October or November in our homeschool numbers. And I think MSBA put out a clipping recently that across the state homeschool numbers are going up. Like I had written in here, when I wrote this, ALP was at 10, they're at 14 as of now, and I was told Friday afternoon they have 3 or 4 more waiting just to get all their enrollment paperwork in, and there is a waiting list of, at that time, about 21. What I don't know, Mr. Lattimore, maybe you know, is are those 21 all in the high school, or are they from outside the district?
I did not get clarification on that. They do hope they'll add 1 per week as everybody gets used to the 2 teachers over there, and 1 per week up to about 24.
Which is statute for alternative learning, about 12 to 15 per teacher. 15 is probably high, I'd like to aim high. Transition, which is not included in our enrollment, but we do have it in the high school, is currently at 20 students. That is a SCRED program, but again, it's in our building, so just some information. Our numbers are down, which you've heard also Mandy talk about it. It's affected our sporting numbers. I would anticipate when Mandy goes to do high school league classification that we may come down from AA to single A. But it's impacting all things from class sizes to sporting events to things like that. I think a big thing this district has historically always based our kindergarten and 3 and 4-year-old programming based on the census. I'm going to recommend we stop doing that, and basing it off of whatever the enrollment at the end of this year for kindergarten. I'll start this way with 4-year-old programming. That's how we're going to start planning for kindergarten. whatever was in our 3-year-old programming, that's what we're gonna plan for 4-year-old programming. And if we need to hire in August, as difficult as that could be, so be it. But I think we have to build our budget for next school year based on the numbers we have in this spring. As now for a few years in a row, our census just isn't matching who's coming to school here. FES is higher than last year by 1 or 2 students, so that's good. We've had a very good smooth opening so far. Student and staff morale. Morale seems high or seems positive. I think it's my echo, my voice.
Oh,
Jessica says yes.
Anyway, it has felt like a smooth opening. Morale seems positive. Like I said earlier, the amazingly clean buildings we have. We're getting good at lunch applications in, and so far it's been very good for transportation. A lot of changes. Bruce and his staff are working hard with all the enrollment changes, but so far we've had very few issues. Questions on any of that information?
So far, latest, the budget that you did most recently, was that based off the spring ending numbers?
At that board meeting, we had put all our revenue back into the budget, which was enrollment up to 940. Yes.
And that's kind of the practice you want to see moving forward, take the ending number?
I would, when I was initially planning on doing this year, but we didn't, is to predict less. So I'd like to predict less, so we have some extra movement in our budget, but we did not do that for this year.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? All right, next up, we're gonna go into school board goals.
I know it's very early into the actual school year for staff and students, for the board and for myself. It's been since July, but just wondering, we had set our school board goals, just wanted to keep this in front of the school board. Again, it's been 5 days of school, so we don't have a lot of data, but anything that we would like to discuss as far as school board goals for this year. Just wanted to keep that as a common topic.
All right, if there are no questions, we are going to move on to the 11 policies for first read.
This will be the last time for first read that we have this many. We'll approve this many, obviously, for second read next month, but then we'll go back to 3 or 4 a month. So next October or next month, we'll have a long list, but then it should get better. Again, most of these are statutory language changes that have come up.
Does anybody have any questions? Then we will move on to the new Delta Dental plan.
So I'm recommending staying with Delta Dental. They gave us a 1-year quote. You can see the increase for singles went from $49.54 to $55.36, and for family coverage from $138 to $84 to $156.16. For singles, that's an average of about 49 cents a month. For family, that's an average of about $1.36 a month. We did have some other places that provided either comparable or lower quotes, but if you remember a year ago, we were in a similar situation, and at least with some of the companies, we had heard back from staff that their specific dentist wasn't covered. It'd be a lot to change. We do get great customer service from Delta Dental, and obviously by staying with Delta Dental, there'd be no transition for every single employee switching. They only gave us a 12-month plan. What Bridget and I have already talked about is we'd like to start this when we get to a year from now, start a month or 2 earlier so we can research even deeper into these other companies that would come through to make sure then we can get it out to staff. Are all our dentists covered, things like that. But recommending we stay with Delta Dental for another month because of the great customer service and not having to change plans for our staff.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the renewal of Delta Dental plan.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is a resolution to accept donated funds.
The first one, we had donated to community education, specifically for life jackets and pool supplies. The donor is Pine Area Lions Club, so recommend approving their $300 donation.
I have a motion to accept the donated funds.
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The second one, we had a second donation. This person or people would like to stay anonymous. They donated to the HF Athletic and Activities Fund, the amount of $3,120. And the only kind of rules that the donor gave was that the athletic director could work through the needs of the athletic or fine arts events to spend that money. So recommend approval of anonymous donation of $3,120 to the HF Activities Funds.
Is there a motion to accept the donated funds?
I'll move that.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the write-in vote resolution.
The counties have asked us to do this now, even though we don't have elections until a year from now. But a new law was passed that allows school boards to pass the resolution that only certain write-in votes are counted in our elections. So I'm recommending that we approve this resolution. The specifics of that would say votes for write-in candidates will only be individually recorded if the total number of write-in votes for an office is equal to or greater than the fewest number of non-write-in votes for a ballot candidate for that office. So once the board approves it, you don't have to do it again unless you want to change something. The county's reached out to us to do this now. It'll set us up for as we head into election season next school year.
So I'm looking for a motion to accept the write-in vote resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is a 403 vendors.
403B. So 403B is our retirement for staff. So in consultation with HFEA, I'm recommending adding vendors to our 403B retirement list. This would be of no cost to the school district as more employees are coming in, maybe with some outside experience. They're coming in with some 403 providers, 403B providers that they may have or have used somewhere else. So this is the list that we currently have in our system. It costs the district nothing and may be beneficial to staff to have more choices as they're signing up for 403B.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to add the accepted 403B vendors.
I'll move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the end of our agenda, so I will check, maybe we should check in with Janelle. Does Janelle have any questions? No questions for Janelle. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?